the session is a 101 on MCP, and I do see a lot of familiar faces in here. You all know what MCPs are, but I do like the support I get. But I think you know what I'm talking about. But maybe there is a few bits and nuggets there that you can use. I hope so. But it is really a 101 on MCPs, and I know that during the day yesterday, a lot of people actually stole my thunder and introduced a lot of the things that I will actually be talking about. So showed what the Sitecore MCPs were, how they worked, and so on. I'll do the same today. So thank you to those guys. But next time, I will probably ask for be on the first one on the agenda with a 101 session like this. But let's see. So my name is Morten. I live in Copenhagen, been with Sitecore for many years and been a solution engineer for as long as I remember, basically. But actually, this month, I changed to uh, still the same overall organization, but I joined the partner sales enablement team. So I had to cross out the senior solution engineer. I remembered yesterday because I actually have a new title. Been with Sitecore, yeah, since 2008. Worked with the Sitecore product since 2005. Not an AI or MTP expert. I took this opportunity as a way to learn myself. So that was a good opportunity. And passions, corgis, and handball. You'll see why that makes sense when we go through the slides. Why I'm mentioning that one. All right. But quick agenda. So it is a history lessons, where what is and where did it came from, the MCP, quick overview on architecture, just a little bit of a deep dive into how it works. And then let's look at MCPs in general, MCPs in Sitecore. Very short on the roadmap because there's not that many items there. But hopefully we can follow up on that with more interesting stuff later. And that's basically it. I might spend just 15 minutes going through this if I speed through it, but let's see, it probably takes longer than that. So quick history lesson. Before MCPs and before the invention of MCPs, this was sort of the landscape when AI and tools started to emerge. Every AI tool, every underlying technology needed to have a connection between each other. So in this case, there will be 9 connections. I know it's oversimplified, but 9 connections just to get these 3 tools to talk to these 3 clients on the other side. So that was this mess, and now you can see why corgi is one of my passions. So it's called the M time N problem that we were facing. So every vendor needed to do a connection for their tool to work with AI, and every new tool needed a new connection and so on, which were a mess basically. So the MCP solution is to have a server in the middle, something that can connect the dots, and you don't need to make a connection, bespoke connection between all systems. So that's the general idea with MCPs. And a quick one on the history. So it was introduced in November 2024 by Anthropic, so Claude, and I will be using Claude. Just because of that, I'm using Claude in my demos as well for some of them, not all of them, but for some of them. And I realized yesterday when I was playing around that my free tier is not that good to use. So I will show you what I did, not what you can do, because I ran out of credits, basically. That's a classic with AI, I guess. And the specific reason was to solve this M times N problem. That was the specific reason for creating the MC protocol. So the existing approaches, function calling plugins, not very, or they were very vendor specific and not very portable, not very reusable by other people in the market. So MCP introduced the standard open client server protocol. So AIs could connect to tools, data, and data in once in a reusable and scalable way. So that was the whole idea and the reason why MCPs were invented. So basically, you would say it was the HTTP of agentic AI, like HTTP, boring, very boring, invisible, just works behind the scenes, and very foundational in today's work. and very fast as well. I should have put that on the slide as well. It was adopted very, very fast because, as you can see, it was only made open source in 2024, and already now, I would say all of you in the room, you have heard of MCP, you have probably used an MCP, and in some shape or form interacted with MCP. So quite a fast adoption as well. And the name, Model Context Protocol, was to just try to accurately describe this. So a protocol, hence the P, for providing large language models, the M, with necessary external information, which is the context, the C, to prove the relevance and accuracy of their outputs. And I deliberately said MC protocol or MCP because I hate when you do that double work, call it MCP protocol, which is also used in a lot of other acronyms where you do that double wording. But anyways, that's my idiosyncrasy. It was or is also compared a little bit to the USB-C standard. So like a standard for connecting tools together. So that was obviously the USB-C proposal that all different appliances could connect to each other, whether that was to power supply or a PC to a screen or whatever. That middleman would be the USB-C connector, and the MCP is a little bit the same. But I wanted to have another analogy as well, but we'll come to that. The very quick overview is that it is a very classic client-server architecture. Client being a device or application, could be Claude, could be Cursor, could be Copilot. And that device or application will require or request some services that is offered by this central server that you or someone built to expose AI capabilities to the client. And here goes the analogy, and I don't know if you want to use it yourself or follow it, or you think it's completely ridiculous, but I tried to come up with my own because it's not fun to just take one that is already out there. So I thought of a family in a house. So we have kids, we have a house, we also have a corgi always. And in this case, the clients are the kids. So they are asking for things. I don't know if you have that in your houses, but the kids are always asking for things, wash my clothes, make my food. The house is the MCP server exposing these appliances. So that could be a washer or the dryer, whatever, a very specific tool that can do a very specific task that the kids, they need to do something for them. Parents, they are the orchestrators and governors. We could call them the rules of the house, not the decision makers. Definitely not the decision makers. Parents are never that. So they ensure that the appliances are used in the safe way, maybe not the correct way, but in a safe way. And kids don't care how they work. That's what happens in my house. At least they don't care about how the dishwasher. They don't even care about how you put things in the dishwasher. They want someone to do that for them. They only care about what's available and that they get the result done. So yeah, use it. I don't know if it hits the mark or not, but it probably do. And one house, again, the whole client server architecture, one house can safely serve many kids. Maybe safely, I don't know if that's the right word, but that's it. You may wonder where the corgi is in that picture. So if we have the kid who is hungry, we could have a corgi that runs to the fridge, brings the snack, brings the snack back to the kid. Maybe a bit inefficiently, could happen. They could eat the snack on the way. That happens with my corgi at least. And sometimes needs a bit of supervision to actually do what is right. A little bit of human interaction or intervention there. So a corgi agent. So there we have the agent in the picture. So that's how I see it. The corgi could be the agent in this analogy. All right. Enough of history and corgis. This is the very, very simplified architecture of an MCP server. So very classic, as you can see. We have an MCP host with clients, and then we have an MCP server with resources, tools, and prompts that can access various underlying services, databases, services, files, whatever it might be. So it is very classic and simple, and you'll see later on that the whole architecture is very simple to work with as well. All right. So MCPs in general. So we're warming up before we get into the MCPs in Sitecore. That has already been spoiled the past days, so it's not going to be a big surprise what the MCPs in Sitecore are. But MCPs in general, typically you would say you could have local and remote MCPs. So you could have local MCPs running on your own local server. I didn't thought about that before I actually did this this presentation. But for this presentation, I'll show you the prompt I did because again, it's Claude, so I can't actually run it until 2 p.m. later today. But could be local or custom MCPs, could be standard, like file access MCPs, for example. That's what I just set up for this very simple demo. So I'll switch to the demo machine. That's a cue for the one in the back. There we go. So this is my Claude setup, and if I look at the settings for it, and it will give me this prompt 1,000 times. In the developer section, we can see I have two different MCP setup, a file system and a weather MCP. So we'll get back to the weather MCP. The file system is a local MCP. So it has a command, and then I have told it where can you actually work with files in my system. So it is, again, that parent that has come in and made sure it's safe. You can only do things in certain places. For example, in this case, you can only work with documents in my user folder, MLJ documents folder. And when that is set up, then we can use that MCP for running different things. You could update files. You could interrogate what are the files in this folder or in these folders that you have access to. You could ask it to clean up the folders, change file names. You can do whatever, but I am doing what I would do 95% of the time when I use ChatGPT to get some kind of dad joke. So that was what I used it for. So if we take, and actually this one I liked, I tried this yesterday. So I had a chat saying, tell me a dad joke that relates to Sitecore and story in my file system. So I think it is quite funny, actually. Can you read it back in the room? I'll read it out loud. Why did the Sitecore developer get kicked out of the restaurant? Because he kept trying to personalize everyone else's menu. So okay-ish, the bad joke. It was very good for me. And it saved it automatically to a text file in my folder. So very easy to set up. And you can actually use this for quite a lot, like cleaning up big file repositories that you have locally on your system, and do a lot of great things with that. So that's a very practical way of using a local MCP server. And there could be tons of other local MCP servers you can search for. I did actually look for, is there a dad joke MCP server out there? I know it doesn't make sense because why would a MCP be specific to dad jokes when you can just ask the agent or the Claude or Copilot or whatever? But there is actually a dad joke MCP, but it is like a out there for as an example of building an MCP server. So I didn't include that one. All right, back to the slides. Yep. All right. So that was the local MCP. Then we have remote MCPs. So that could be custom integrations to other systems or publicly listed integrations as well. So a quick overview of that. And this is where I put them to work in the back. I need to go back to my demo. All right. So besides the, we had the settings here. Besides the developer section where you can manually set up your MCPs by editing the config file. We can also look at general, or where is it, connectors? So we can look at connectors, and we could browse for new connectors. And this is essentially just all the ones that has been exposed by all kind of different companies where they are using or creating a connector for Claude using the MCP servers to connect to their systems. So in this case, as mentioned, I use this to set up. I'm gonna put away from that. There we go. I've used this to set up a GitHub connection, but the weather MCP is actually a local MCP. I forgot to show you that before. So This one is actually a local MCP server that, if we look at the configuration, to have that in my, I have it here, yeah, my config file. Can you read it in the back? Should I make it bigger in the back? Yeah, I'll make it a little bit bigger. If I can find the plus sign. There we go. Is that okay? Yeah. All right. So it's pretty simple. We define the MCP server for the weather MCP. I have just cloned the repository and then build it, and then I can just point to it as in this case, it's a React application. So it runs with Node, and it can be invoked when I need it in Claude here, for example. So quite simple. And then I could ask it again, just going back to the overview. I can ask it about the New York weather, for example. Again, I can't do it live, but let's see here. And actually, first I just asked it, and it didn't realize I had a local MCP server, so I had to tell it, please use my local MCP server to get the weather. Because obviously, if you just use Claude to ask for the weather, it will use some kind of public available resource to get that. Yeah. And then the connector. So the connector I added was for GitHub, and to use that, I need to create a project where I can use that that connector. At least that's how it works in Claude. So I have a few different ones here, and let me just create a new one so let me see how it goes. Just call this test. Create project. And because I have this connector to GitHub, I can use that as context for my project. So if I click this GitHub one, I can tell it what repository, what files should be the context of what I need to do. And again, here you quickly hit the limit if you're using the free one. So you see right now it says 0% of the capacity has been used. But if I just say I want to include all the example code from our starter kit. So this is the Sitecore AI starter kit. If I want to use all the examples, then I am out of capacity. I can't do that. So you probably have to pay to get to that. But I could go down and say, well, our famous skate park, let's just add that in. That takes up 56% of the capacity. So add those files, then it will start analyzing those files, and those will be available as context for my prompts. Again, can't do it because I'm out of credits. So I'll just show you a prompt I did earlier on. So I just said, tell me how many components I have, and then it will automatically find that is probably in my components.map file, and then it is mapping out all my components. I could also ask in a slightly different way. So in this case, give me a list of all components, and here it has actually done a little bit more structured output for me, but same concept. And this again could be used to clean up, do code analysis. It could do a lot of different things when you connect your GitHub directly to an IDE or to a client like Claude or Copilot, Visual Studio Code, Cursor, whatever you want to do. Yep. Back to the slides. How am I doing on time? I have no idea. Oh, sun is running fast. All right. So that was that. Then you could build your own MCP, as mentioned. So I wanted to just take this as an example, also to just show you, if you haven't seen, what is the actual parts that makes up an MCP. And actually, what I'll show you, it is actually very, very easy to build your own MCP. Obviously, the logic is where the difficult part is, but getting an MCP up and running and exposing tools, for example, is very, very easy. So when you build your own MCP, you can add to that MCP, you can work with resources. So that would be files like I did with the GitHub connector, where I add in resources like files that it needs to use as context. Tools, so that's the functions that it can call. That is very much what our MCPs are using, especially the marketer MCP, which we'll get back to. And then it could also be pre-written prompts that you expose through the MCP. So you give the user a little bit of ideas on how to use this specific MCP. So I have a quick example that is very much focusing on tools. Again, back to the weather, getting a weather forecast or alerts from a weather service. And back to the demo. There we go. So, and again, I probably need to make this a bit. Oh, we already made this a bit bigger, so that's good. All right. So this is the actual MCP code. So you can see, now I'm using a React project for it. Pretty simple. I only have one index TSX file. I put everything in that one. I am importing an MCP server from Model Context Protocol SDK. So this is for if I want to build it in React. There's obviously SDKs for all kinds of different frameworks, but this is for the React framework. So importing this, and then I need to tell it or import the way I want to interact with the MCP server. In this case, it's a standard input-output server. So get an input, provide an output. That's what I'm using for this one. And if we scroll down, then we are setting up a few things. And then we just create the server. So a new MCP server, give it a name, give it a version. That's basically it. Then you have a server and you can start registering the different tools. For example, you want to, you can see here, I'm starting to register some tools. I think there's only 2 tools in this one. But we could, as mentioned, it could also be here server the resources, so register resource, or it could be register prompts as well. So quite easy, quite easy to set up and add what you need to. And then obviously you run it, you build it, you use it as a local MCP, or you make it public somewhere and everyone can use it. So pretty straightforward for actually creating an MCP server. And it could be even shorter than this one. So this is just a real functioning one. I took an example with this weather, but just to get that up and running and just have one tool that just says hello world, for example, that's only like 50 lines of code or something maximum. So quite simple to get that up and running. Oh, I don't need to switch back to my slides. Yeah, can I switch back to slides? All right. So that was MCPs in general, local MCPs, local and public MCPs, and how to build your own MCP server. And then let's move into what we have in Sitecore. And this is where the thunder has already been had. So currently in Sitecore, and if there are any product folks in the room that thinks differently, let me know. But currently, what we have publicly available are 3 MCP servers. And if you have been to the sessions yesterday, you will have heard about all of these as well in various contexts. We have the Sitecore Marketer MCP, and yeah, bringing back the corgi. Marketer MCP, we have the Documentation MCP, and the Sitecore Block MCP as well. So those are the ones officially available that we provide. And I know there are more on the way. There is a 30-second roadmap talk at the end about that. All right. So, and the idea, and especially the Marketer MCP, is probably the most advanced one and the most used one as well. And the idea is obviously to make sure that we can translate the intent of a normal editor, a marketer, or a tool, translate that intent, use the MCP to do things like creating a page, updating content, what does it say, manage assets, media library assets. And it will also have all the different guardrails, so permissions, workflows, approvals, and all of that is being taken care of. Yep. So that's the idea with specifically the Marketer MCP. So Sitecore Marketer MCP, 42 tools in general. I hope they don't change it because it is the answer to everything. Don't know if that flies over everyone's head or if you are a sci-fi nerd like I am, but otherwise come ask me if you are wondering. It allows you to do CRUD operations against a specific environment. You could set up multiple MCPs in your cursor, for example, to connect to multiple environments if you want to. But each MCP instance or setup needs to connect to one environment and need to authenticate against that environment. Yeah. We will share these slides, I'm assuming. So I just put a quick reference to how to set up the MCP servers in your local development environment, how to set that up. There's a quite good guide there. Otherwise, you can ask the documentation MCP. We'll get back to that. Right. So a quick demo on that. If I can go back to my demo. All right. So first of all, how do we connect to the MCP? So I'm in my project here. So this is again the XM Cloud Starter Kit. And we can look at my settings. So I have in my MCP, and now we don't have that much real estate on the screen, so I need to find it there. So I've set up a few MCPs. So I have the Marketer MCP, and we can see 242 tools enabled. I have the Blocks MCP as well, which is called Shatsigen. Documentation as well. I did set up that weather service as well, just to test it out in Cursor. When you set up the Marketer MCP, you will need to authenticate the first time. So it will give you a little connect button in the side where you need to connect to an existing Sitecore AI environment. So you both need to point to the organization and the actual environment within that organization that you need to connect to, an authoring environment. For the documentation, for those of you who saw it yesterday, or there was 15 minutes left. Okay. All right. That's okay. For the ones who saw that yesterday, this just requires you to authenticate that you are a human. So nothing else than that. And there are both options available, both a Google, if you have a Google account, you can authenticate with that, or if you have a GitHub account, you can use that for authentication. Just making sure you are a human using the MCP. All right, and now that I have set that up, then I can use that for querying. And now I am in a new agent. I do have tabs open. If this fails miserably, then we can go back to that. That's the beauty of doing AI or some kind of AI demos, that the outcome is always different. But let's see if it will just list all of my sites. So without giving it any context or anything, it should be able to reason that we have an MCP server that has something to do with websites, and it should be able to find that. Let's see. Otherwise, I'll go back to one of my prompts. And also, depending on what we are doing, it can take some time for it to reason, to find out what to do, and to actually provide the result. So if time becomes a problem, I will switch to one of the already chats that I have already had. What does it say? It looks at authoring. Yeah, while it hallucinates, let me find one of them. So we have, for example, here, list all sites. So again, I have asked it, and I asked it a lot of times, list all my sites. So it has found, in this case, using the MCP server, it has found Skate Park and the Alaris site. And then you could move on. Let's see if it has done something. Okay, it has actually found them. You can see I've added a few since I did that prompt earlier on. So now I actually have a list of my different sites. And then I could continue using the MCP for creating content, whatever all those 42 tools will give me of options. So one thing I did, and we can try it out later if you want to, but I think I did it here. Did I? Is that, by the way, readable in the back, or do you need it a bit bigger? I will make it a bit bigger. Make it even harder to get real estate. All right. But we could continue now saying, okay, now I found my sites. Let's use that for look at my homepage on the Alaris side and update the title file to something, for example. I'll do that from within Sitecore AI in a moment. So I could do that. I could also say, please find the homepage of Alaris and add a page to that site. If I do that and it can't find or it cannot figure out what page type to actually add, it will prompt me back and say, I can add a page, but there are several templates I can base that page on. Which template do you want? And then it will list out the templates as well. So depending on how descriptive you are and how specific you are in your prompts, it will ask you follow-up questions like, couldn't find the site or the item you are asking me to do something with. Can you be more precise, or can you tell me the ID or the specific name, or uh, it can list templates that are available. Is it one of these that you need to create content based on, and so on? So in that sense, you can have a whole conversation with the AI and get to quite a good result at the end, getting it to create and update content. Yep. All right. Cool. Let's switch back to the presentation. So that was a little bit of the Sitecore Marketer MCP. Now I will show it as well how we use it directly within the Sitecore environment. So we can use that in agents and prompts within Sitecore AI. So I do have the screenshot there. If it again fails miserably, then we always have the screenshot. Did I put a little demo there? No, I didn't. All right. So let's switch back to the demo. There we go. So I'll find my site and just make sure I haven't been logged out in the meantime. And if I go to the Agentic tab, I could immediately start working with the agents, select an agent and make that work for me. But I could also just, without selecting any context, any agents, I could attach a skill or a tool. And in this case, so I don't know if you saw that yesterday, but we do have an area where you can define skills for the agents. Down here on the settings, then you can work with your skills and add those, and those will be available when you, for example, are prompting. But I could also switch here and see I have available the Marketer MCP and the Sitecore Documentation MCP. So let's add in the Marketer MCP, apply that one. And then I could do things like update the title field on the home page of Alaris. I can't remember if I have a page called Alaris, but I'm assuming I have. To say hello. Whatever. Then it will run that. This will take time, so I don't want to bore you with that. If I switch away from it, it will automatically give me a space so I can always go back and look at what it's doing and what it has done. But I'll just, in the interest of time, I saw Lucas giving me warnings about time running out. I'll show you one that I ran earlier on. So for this one, for example, and again, it will take a little bit of time to initialize that space for me. But in this one, I asked it to find the home node, look at the meta title fields, and then update it to something else. I also did a test where I said, analyze the page using the SEO analyzer, and then use that analysis to update the metadata title field. And that worked quite well as well. So, so quite powerful for doing these things. Yep. So we can switch over. Otherwise, we'll get back to it when we switch to the demo again in a second, but because it takes a little while, especially if we are on a shaky Wi-Fi. Let's see, did I forget anything? No. All right, let's switch back to the presentation. Right. So using that, and now I just did a very simple example of attaching the MCP server to my prompt. So that became one of the skills that could be used in the prompts. But you can also attach it when you build your own agents. You could attach the MCP server so the agents can also create things on your behalf within Sitecore. Yeah. We also have the Marketer MCP available in Marketplace apps. So Christian Hans showed that yesterday at the end session yesterday, how we can attach an MCP, Marketer MCP to a Marketplace app and then use the functionality there instead of using the tools directly. I would argue that most marketplace apps, you would want to have a more deterministic output or functionality. So you would just use the tools like GraphQL mutation or whatever. You would just use that directly. But in some cases, like the examples Christian showed yesterday, it might make sense to use the MCP where you can interrogate and you can ask instead of just having like a button that does something. Then we have the documentation MCP, one tool, again, to rule them all, just a search tool that will search through the entire knowledge base or documentation that we have. Quite powerful. I use it a lot when I need to do some kind of example component and I need to output a field or whatever, and I'm lazy and I don't want to write it by hand. I just ask the documentation MCP, how do I in the best way output this image field and make sure it's editable in the page editor. Then we'll get help there from the documentation MCP. Can we switch to the demo? And I'll just quickly want to show you this is still running. Why? Okay, then it's finished. So just finishing this before we go up, can you update the metadata field on the homepage for Alaris so you can see it looks through what is the available tools in the MCP. I can do that. I've located the Alaris main site. Please confirm. It will ask you to confirm a lot of times. Once you confirm, blah, 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 then it has actually done it. And then I tried a few different things as well. Again, it is examining what it has available. And then at the end, it says, now I've done it. This is the preview URL to that item that I have updated. 5 minutes left. Perfect. All right. On our documentation site, you will find both the Ask the AI button. So if you haven't noticed that or haven't used that yet, I would highly recommend using this because it actually gives you quite specific answers. I have also, as you probably have as well in the past, had a little bit of a challenge finding exactly what I want in the documentation. There are a lot of documentation files, and the same thing could be written in multiple different ways. So using this AI is actually quite good, I have found. And you can always also use the MCP, and there are a few guides on how to add that to your local, for example, Cursor, Visual Studio Code, Claude, or just any other by copying the MCP URL and then set it up manually in the tool of choice. So quite easy, very, very handy. I would recommend everyone who is working with Sitecore AI on a daily basis to use that documentation MCP. Right, and back to the slides. I think the time fits very well because I don't have more demos to show. Just want to mention the Sitecore blog MCP as well. So a few examples of how we can use that. Again, I use that a lot when I work with example marketplace apps, and I'd want them to look great because I'm definitely not a designer and it looks horrible. If I put two colors together, it becomes brown. So that's how it goes. But using the blog MCP means that I can follow the Sitecore style guide and make the applications look nice also within the Sitecore interfaces. And they can do everything from this MCP can give you information, but it can also do things like install the blog button, but for example, for your add a button card and alert from the blog registry into the actual TSX file I'm working on. So it is very, very handy for building marketplace applications if you want to make them look like it's a Sitecore application. Yeah. And then a quick note on the MCP roadmaps. So there's not that much, unfortunately, that I can tell. I don't know if it's because it's more a secret that our product team wouldn't tell me, or if we are just not ready to say that much. But there will be an MCP for DAM, for Content Hub. So this is probably one of the most asked for MCPs from the community as well. And it is being built out and will be made available. This will mean that you can also combine the Marketer MCP with the DAM MCP and then work with assets across. So right now, I have to be honest, if you create a page, for example, and you pass in a a file that shows a layout. It will create that page and it will try to create it as best as possible based on the components available, but it will not fill out any image fields. So it will just leave the image fields blank, and you will have to manually go in and update those. With the DAM MCP, I'm anticipating that we will fix that, so you can also have it search for appropriate images in the DAM and use that image when creating a page, for example. There will be an XMXP MCP server as well. This will be when the next is released, and if the next doesn't mean anything to you, come see me if you want to know more. But it is just the next evolution of XMXP based on .NET Core, .NET 9, 10, whatever it's called these days. But the roadmap says that we are waiting for that release to happen, because then we have the appropriate APIs to expose to an MCP. And then Christian told me, Christian Hahn as well, he might share more details in the afternoon. I don't know. I don't want to say he will be, because I don't know. But there will be a development MCP as well, where the goal is for the developers to work entirely in the IDE of choice and don't have to do common development tasks that you do over and over again. I assume, and again, I didn't ask Christian about this, but I assume it's things like creating a new component where you can get the MCP to do that for you, so you don't have to create the rendering definition item and hooking that up with your actual TSX file and so on. Yep. And that was actually all I had. So thank you to our sponsors. I would also like to thank all the organizers. They are never represented in these slides, but thank you to the organizers for organizing this amazing event. I've been part of it many times, and I still love it. And thanks to the sponsors. And then this is just the model for the AI-generated cookies that you saw earlier on. Couldn't resist putting them in. Thank you. Questions, and happy to change.